Hi and welcome back. First thing you can see is the new set. Vortex have sent me out a couple of bits and pieces. They sponsored me some banners for the wall. They've also given me some bits and pieces to give away, some decals and some hats and stuff. And I'll be giving away a random hat to a random comment on this video as well. All you have to do to enter is just comment below, and I'll choose a random one in about a week. What I'm going to do today is fairly simple. I realized that after I did the last trigger video, is some guys don't know how to change a trigger, or make it needlessly complicated, or just don't want to try it themselves. It's very simple. All you need is a hammer, a punch, a screwdriver to take your action screws out, and if you have a rear bag, just to hold it steady, it makes it a little bit easier, just because you're kind of balancing it on the scope when you're doing it. If you don't have a 2.5mm punch, you can use an Allen key or a small screwdriver. All you need to do is something to push the drift pins across, and that's it. If you don't have a hammer, you could use the back of another screwdriver. It's not complicated, but ideally you need a 2.5mm punch, a little jeweler's mallet or something like that with a little brass end or a plastic end. Nothing complicated. So what we're going to do here today is, you can see the trigger in this. I'm just going to take out the breech flag. This is the Remy project gun. Some people will recognize straight away. This is the X Mark Pro trigger, and it's set at 2.5 pounds, which is, it's not bad at all. All the pressure's been removed from the easy access spring up here in the trigger blade, and the sear is set to a safe position or safe contact, and the return spring is down to get it to 2.5. This will not go much more than 2.5. You can get it down lower, but it wouldn't be safe. It's not what it's meant for. So at the moment, 2.5, great stalking trigger, great hunting trigger. Once you get into precision work, it's a little bit heavy. It has a little bit, for the weight of it, it's got too much sear contact for me. So this is going to go, and we're going to put in this Temney tactical trigger, which is the straight bar with the adjustable left, right, in and out, for people with smaller hands like myself, and people who just like the straight bar triggers. So this guy down here is going to go. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take out our two action screws. The only thing different if you're doing this on a standard stock is when you take out your two action screws, you're going to take out your floor plate. You're going to take out your internal box mag just by squeezing it and pulling it out after you take it out of the stock or before. And pretty much that's it. Your springy floor plate, or your springy follower, and your internal box mag. That's the only thing that's different that won't be in this one. So we'll throw it up here. We'll get our Allen key here, and we'll take out our two action screws. Obviously these don't have the recommended torque on them because I was taking a look before. Take out your two action screws. Remove your chassis. Get your sandbag and just balance her up. And basically, that's the easiest way I find to work on it. You can try and balance it other ways, but if you just get a nice sandbag, leave your scope on it. It's nice and steady. You can work on the pins. Nothing's going to get in your way. As you can see, it's the standard Remington X Mark Pro. I believe this is one of the recall ones. It's got the bolt release up here, and it's got the two-position safety, which won't actually engage till It's got the two-position safety, which is a sear lock safety, but actually locks the trigger also, which is a bit of a problem because these have a weak point across here, where if you pull too hard, it'll actually break it off where this screw goes through the trigger blade itself. So we're going to take the whole thing out. What we're going to do now, we're going to need your little punch. This I think is a 2.4mm, 2.5mm will do fine. Let me just check the size. 2.4mm, and our hammer. So our bolt is released, but it's just sitting in the action. What we're going to do is the front drift pin, we're going to drift it towards me. Now the reason I went with a 2.4 or 2.5mm is you can get it in just above where the bolt release bar is. So we can get it in this little hole here. I'm going to tap it just across. Now you can pull the pin back out. Now I know that it's pushed all the way through because this is now pivoting. In every type of screw, there's some kind of spring pushing on the release bar on top, and if you're not careful, some springs will let the spring eject after you get the second pin out. So to take the second pin out is you take off your safety and drift to the direction of the bolt release. We don't want to drift all the way through, so we're going the opposite direction this time. It's going to drift. There we go. And it's out. So what I'm going to do is going to hold this little bar across. That's it. You can see here, back pin is drifted to the bolt release side, and the front pin is drifted to the on a right hand action to the bolt side. This way, when we're putting it back in, we don't have to take out all the bolt release bits and pieces. It's not going to go around the place because it can be a pain in the ass to get that little tension spring in that holds the bolt release up so the bolt doesn't fall out when you cycle. So we're just going to put this aside. This is the guide that's going in. Most of the time when you get your new trigger, the surface is held in by 2 cross pins, and that's just to stop the spring from just bouncing across the room. These particular ones don't have a spring, so it's not a big deal if you lose it. It has a little coiled leaf that pushes up, so even if you take off the top surface, it's not going to bounce anywhere. It's not going to go anywhere. The chimney itself, I think it's a 510, and I think the straight bar version of it does have a spring. That's it there. And it's the same thing. This actually has a hinged plate in the back, and the spring goes down inside it. So if you see a spring sitting on the table, that's what more likely is. It's for resetting these surfaces here. So we're going to put this guy in. When you get them, usually they have a lock pin across the to stop the surface from coming out completely. Where you can drift the whole pin through if you want, but I'm going to take the pins out to make it easier, and I'll show you a little trick. This is why I leave the bolt in. You take out your front facing pin, hold the surface in with your hand, drop the other pin, and just drop it in, push the bolt across, or tap it across with your hammer. Now, what you'll notice here is the back is pushing out. Now that can be awful hard to line up if you don't have your bolt in. When you have your bolt in, you can just sit it on your bolt, push it down, and the bolt will push up the bottom surface, making it nice and easy to start off your pin going across. So we close the bolt, and now we can just drift the whole thing over. That's it. So we'll take the pressure off here again. We'll get our pin punch, and we'll just finish off what we're doing. So the front one drifts over until it's almost touching the bolt release on this side. Not quite touching it. It's just about to touch it, because if it pushes up against it, you'll find that it locks the bolt release, and you might have to take it out of the action again to actually push the bolt release, or the bolt release will stay open and it won't close. I'm just going to go over a tiny bit more, just until we can see the pin coming out the far side. There we go. I'm not sure if you can see perfectly here, but the pin is just starting to come out here. I can just see the surface of it. Now this particular trigger does not have a bolt release, but the bolt release is not locked. It's still nice and free. And the same thing with this one here. Just drift it, just so you can see it coming out the far side. There we go. So I can see the 2 pins coming out this side. They're about level, and the same with this side. This one is just stopped before it touches the bolt release, and this one is about Oh, it's about 2.5 millimeters just past the hinge here, so it can pivot the bolt release. Now on this build, I really don't need a bolt release, but I like having it in there, and it's easy to take out with a copper coin, even if you don't have a bolt release installed on your trigger. So again, this is a cleared gun, and it's ready to go. Now this particular one is quite light. The one on my 308 at the moment, which is the DCR hybrid trigger, is set to 3 pounds with a nice bit of sear engagement, and I'm used to it now. I like it having it this way. This Timney advertises going that low. I don't know will it actually go that low, but we're gonna just give it a quick measurement here. It seems to be about the same. We'll try a couple more pulls. I'm getting 0.8 pounds, whatever that is in ounces. 0.7 pounds. 0.7 pounds. And one more for good luck. 0.7 pounds. That's what I thought that was about. I actually thought it was 0.8 pounds, but that was originally, it's gone down just because over time it's polished out its own sear surfaces and made it a bit more slick. So this is what we'll be running on this rifle during the match tomorrow, and I think it'll do quite well. So once you have your 2 pins back in, you just reassemble and put it back into the stock, and it's always a good idea to make sure your safety is working as well. But in this case, this one doesn't even have a safety, since it's more of a bench rest trigger type with no bolt release and no safety. But you normally test your safety out. So what we do is now we lose our... Oh, there it is. There we go. We'll just put in our screws, and then we'll torque them down to our 40 inch-pounds with our torque driver, and we're ready to go. But before that, we'll just give it a quick test. That is quite nice. I might actually move this blade a little bit. No, it's good. Yeah. That's much better than the 2.5 pounds that was previously on it. And because this particular trigger does not have a safety, we don't have any safety up here, and we have no bolt release. But it's not an issue not having a bolt release. If you have a coin or a small Allen key or something in your kit, you can easily push down the bolt release and take your bolt out on the day. So that's a quick look at how you change out your trigger. You just need a little punch, about 2.5 mil. You wouldn't want to go too much bigger, or else you won't get the first pin out. Little hammer, and enough tools to take out your action out of your gun. If it's bedded correctly, you're not going to lose any zero. It's going to be the same way. It's a good idea to check, but it's a pretty easy procedure. You don't need to send it down to a smith unless you're getting adjustments made to your trigger at the same time with your sear surface contact or something like that you wouldn't be happy with doing yourself. Then you can get them to do the whole thing. But if you're just swapping over a trigger, it's just 2 pins. It's nice and simple. If you take your time, nothing will fly across the room. There are, as I said, 2 spring-loaded things, which is the bolt release, which won't fly off if you drift the pin through it, and the reset for the sear in the triggers. Some of the triggers have a spring. If you take it nice and easy, they're not going to bounce off either. So that's it. Comment down below, and I'll send out a hat to a random commenter below. And don't forget to subscribe. Should be getting a lot more videos out soon. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.